and they lived happily ever after. We're going to talk about it on today's podcast. I've spent the last 20 years studying, teaching, and coaching people to find their greatness and take their lives to the next level. Along the way, it's become evident that emotions are at the root of everybody's successes and failures. Worry and fear are the enemies, and it's time to forge the armor and earn the tools to overcome the two things that could single-handedly destroy your future. Hi, my name is Michael Johnson, and I'm a life coach, a peak performance trainer, and I'm the emotions guy. It's time to take back control of how you feel, control of how you act, and control of how you experience life. It's time to become a lifer, a new breed of overachiever focused on living every minute to its fullest. We are responsible for how we feel, and no one and no thing can make us feel anything. Emotional mastery is our journey, and emotional education and intelligence is the key. We are lifers, and this is Magic for Life. What's up, lifers? Michael Johnson here with the Magic for Life podcast. I'm so glad you joined me today because we're talking about happily ever after. How can you go wrong, right? We're here together on this podcast, and we are definitely going to talk about what the heck that means. Every Disney film, every cartoon that we see, in fact, most of the movies, we want a happily ever after ending. And I know there's some of you contrarians out there that are saying, yeah, well, I like the endings when they turn out different and there's a twist. Well, okay, that's fine. But generally speaking, we want to watch stories and see and hear about events that the people in the story lived happily ever after. Why is that? Well, I want to actually talk about the term and the concept of happily ever after. Now, if you've been around and you've listened to this podcast for any period of time, you know that last year I published a book called, what is it? You remember? Come on. Every minute. Yeah. So you know that I believe in this concept and this idea that we should be living every minute. And there are ways and there are things that you can do to be able to live every minute, right? And that's the thing. When we're talking about happily ever after, let's think about that for a second. I think we get blinded by the idea, and most of us think Cinderella or Snow White, and instantly we go right into this idea of happily ever after, and we think of it as some future thing, something in the future, something that hasn't happened, like we're going to get it someday. Well, with that mentality and that idea, we're always constantly going, well, not right now, but ever after, as if it was somehow tomorrow, or somehow next week or next year, or someday when I get to go to Disneyland, I will be happy because it's the happiest place on earth. And so when I get there, I'll live happily ever after, right? But here's the thing. When we talk about every minute, we're talking about this idea that we're living every minute right now, which is super interesting because if we're talking about happily ever after, that means that ever, right? Every, ever. No, okay, they're not the same, but the idea is simple. Ever after, meaning every moment after that. Well, if in order to live happy every minute after that, you better dang well have some plans to be able to do that. Have you noticed things could be going great? You could have a great day, everything's wonderful, and then all of a sudden something happens, and then there ain't no happily ever after that, right? Things start to fall apart, everything starts to go crummy, and you just let it snowball as you go through the day. And so here's the thing. If we're going to live happily ever after is a continuous thing. It's not just right now, it's the next moment and the next moment and the next one after that. It's ever after. Ever after what? After this moment. And so after this moment is the next one and the next one and the next one, which happens to be every minute. You see, living happily ever after is really, when we dig down into it and we really dig into the guts of it, it's living happy. What? Yes, you can too. Live happy for 1995. No, I'm just kidding. But really, the truth of the matter is that you can learn to do this. And unfortunately, People didn't teach you to do this unless you maybe grew up in Finland, where their school system is based and worked around this idea that their number one goal of their teachers is to teach the students how to be happy. There's an interesting idea. Now, I haven't gone and interviewed any of their students. So if you're one of them listening to this podcast, please send me a note. I'd love to interview you, having grown up in the Finnish school system. Did they really teach you to be happy? I don't know. You should let me know. Send me a message, info@Magic for Life. I want to hear from you, right? But here's the thing. I know already that you can learn how to be happy. And I know that sounds maybe altruistic. And I don't care. I honestly don't care that it sounds that way. I maybe sound idealistic. And guess what? I don't care. If I have a choice as to how I'm going to live, if I'm going to live angry or happy, I'm going to choose happy. How about you? Answer the question. If I'm going to have a choice between living sad or happy, I'm going to choose happy. How about you? Answer the question. Here's the thing. What would you rather do? So you can say that it's idealistic or altruistic, or that, gosh, if only the world was perfect. Well, don't depend on the world. Don't depend on the outside things. It is not this pen's fault whether I'm happy or sad. It is not this mouse's fault whether I'm happy or sad. It is my own fault, to use that word, that I'm either happy or sad. And I don't know that fault is maybe the best word for that, but that's another conversation. So let's take this for what it is. This hat doesn't make me happy. I decided to be happy. I put the hat on, and maybe if I have a limited education about emotional intelligence, then I might say that this hat makes me so happy. This sweater makes me so happy. And that might sound crazy to you, but for goodness sakes, talk to a teenage girl. Oh, this jacket makes me so happy. Oh, this lipstick makes me so happy. Baloney. They decided to make them happy. Their thing, their item, the thing outside of them didn't make them happy. They chose to be happy about the item. And that is a challenge sometimes. It is always something that if you haven't learned how to do, if they didn't teach you how to do this from day one, then why would it be easy? But it is doable. Now, this has massive implications, okay? And I get that. And if I rile or toss up your feathers about this, great. Let's talk about it. Let me know. Right? But here's the thing. I know you know how to be happy. I also know that if you're not happy on a regular basis and a majority of the time, it's because you're doing it. It's because you're doing it to yourself. I know that as a fact. I know that when I have a bad day, I am responsible for that bad day. And what does that mean? I am response-able. That is a thing. I am response-able for that bad day. I'm response-able. I am able to respond to the things coming into my senses, my touch, my eyes, my sight, my sound, my hearing, my taste, my smell. I am able to respond, and I can choose how I'm going to respond. I can filter how I'm going to respond, and I can practice those things so that I can choose to be, we're going to put in quotes, happy. Right? Because it's not always just about one emotion, happy. There are lots of light side emotions. Calm is something I can choose to be. Excited is something I can choose to be. And those are all great emotions that will help me get into great alignment. Right? And many of you know that I had a past of being a professional ballroom dancer. And as a professional ballroom dancer, and having taught professional dancers and athletes, alignment is massively important. If an athlete playing basketball is out of alignment in their body, they're probably going to get hurt, right? As a dancer, if we're out of alignment, there's going to be something not congruent about their dancing that as somebody watches from the outside, they're going to go, yeah, they're good, but there's just something wrong. When you, as a human, just as a regular everyday human, when you are out of alignment, people come up to you and they go, is everything okay? Can I help you? What's going on? You normally don't look so sad or depressed, or you normally don't seem to have that kind of demeanor or poise. They go, is everything okay? Can I help you? So when you are out of alignment, other people know it, they recognize it, and they point it out. Now, here's the weird part about it. We are a weird group of humans, because what we do is when somebody is happy all the time, we go, oh, I can't believe they're happy again. Jeez, stop being so dang happy. Who do you think you are? Well, I'm happy. That's it. So you have to understand that we do weird things like that. That's the crab in the bucket theory, right? I don't know if I've talked about that on this podcast. I should, though. I should. So what I want to point out is that happily ever after, it takes some work, right? Some work here and here. And I'd like you to be able to go and do that work and start on it. You know what? You don't have to be perfect at it. Nobody's saying anything about being perfect at it. But what we are talking about is this concept and this idea that you can choose to be happy. And with a little bit of work, it gets easier. And the easier it gets, the easier it is to continue to live happily ever after. Happily ever after. But it does take you being involved, and it does take you taking some action, and it does take you actually doing something to progressively and continuously and constantly be happy. But it's about you being that way. It's about you understanding how to deal with the things coming in and giving things new meaning and understanding how to do that. I hope this is helpful for you today, and I know that somebody out there needed to hear this because I was inspired to talk about it today. So I would love for you to share it. So if you know somebody that needs to hear it and wants or needs to hear this message, please share the podcast. Don't forget #Magic for Life. You can tag us, take a screenshot if you would. That helps us a lot, and post it on Instagram or Facebook. Give us a #Magic for Life, and we will see you on the next podcast. Hey lifers, we expect upgrades to the base operating functions of the things like our phones, cars, and even refrigerators. Why then has it not been made a priority that we upgrade the operating systems of our emotional states? We dance around the subject of emotional mastery from a young age. We have so much more knowledge in today's world, yet we're still teaching outdated methods of emotional education, if any are being taught at all. It's time for a change. It's time for an upgrade to our emotional education. Let me help you learn how to do that. Pick up your free copy of Every Minute at everyminutebook.com.